Hi, welcome back or welcome to my channel if you're new. My name is Laura. Hi, hello, welcome. It's time for my No Pan Left Behind update. I'm really excited about this update. I didn't do the best this month. We've kind of taken a step back in terms of like how much usage we made, but I am happy to say that whenever my eyeshadow bank video goes up, I made a lot of progress in that regard. So this suffered a bit this month, but I did make some pretty good goals this month nonetheless, and I'm really happy and excited to share them with you guys. Typically in these videos, I recap just some information from last month, and it's not going to be any different this month. I'm really proud that I didn't bring any eyeshadows into my collection in the month of October. I know, round of applause for me. I didn't bring any eyeshadows into my collection. I ended up just using eyeshadows in my collection, so that's always very exciting. So there's no number changes in the amount of shades that I have in my collection. Well, that's a lie. I ended up finishing a eyeshadow, so technically my numbers have gone down, but for like all intensive purposes, my numbers get fluctuated once a year, or I'm going to try to do once a year now. I had a stack of palettes that I wanted to try to focus on in the month of October to try to no pan left behind, which is just using every single shade that's in the palette at least one time. It's challenging when you have a palette collection. I don't even have the world's biggest palette collection by any means. I have 48 palettes in my collection as of right now, and that includes like my different groups of eyeshadows too, like Cliona shades. So that number didn't change throughout the course of the past month. But yeah, I'm trying to touch every single one of them, and it's proving to be challenging. Let's just go through the stack of eyeshadows that I wanted to kind of touch and try to use over the course of the month of October. First one being this top one on the stack, which is the Natasha Denona Mini Nude Palette. Now, I have pan in 3 of these shades. This shade actually, when it was in my little storage, it shattered and I had to smush it back down. Still have pan in it, luckily, but I didn't use a single pan of this the course of the past month, so I'm kind of embarrassed to say that. The next palette I at least used some shades in. This is the Heather Austin palette by Adept, and that is what my palette is looking like. We ended up using 4 of the shades in this palette, but we did not finish the No Pan Left Behind goal. I only have 3 more shades in this palette before I can consider this completed for my No Pan Left Behind. And that is going to be these 2 shimmer shades, this one which is called So Excited, and then 0603, and then this matte kind of greeny, mustardy kind of shade. It's a really unique kind of mustard in my opinion. This is the shade Mythology. So those 3 shades are all I have to use in this palette. I buy the beautiful things to use and then I'm like, don't use it, it's too pretty. So silly of me. But yeah, this guy, I didn't reach for No Pan Left Behind, but I did reach for some shades at least in that one. Then I did actually reach my No Pan Left Behind goal on this puppy though. This is the Too Faced Maple Syrup Pancakes palette, and I really was struggling reaching for the purples, I'm not gonna lie. I go in waves with purples. I had ridden a pretty purple wave, and then I went through like a lull where I was like, I don't want to wear any purples for like 3 good weeks, and then I wanted to wear purples again and threw them on. So this, I finally have No Pan Left Behind. I'm really happy about that. This was 18 shades that I brought into my collection a couple months ago, and I have now officially used every single shade in this. Then I have a couple Fantasy Cosmetica palettes to talk about, and I'm really excited to say that I did actually No Pan Left Behind both of these palettes that we're going to talk about. But the first one is the newest release from Fantasy Cosmetica. Also, by the way, I do have an affiliate code with Fantasy Cosmetica. If you do want to save 10%, you can use my affiliate code. It will save you 10%, but I do get a small commission based off of that sale. So if you want to use it, cool. If not, no pressure. Just don't use the link that's in my description box kind of thing. But the Warlock palette is absolutely stunning. It is so pretty. I like how the palette is kind of paired into like duos almost. So you have these two shades that go incredible together, these two shades that go so good together, same thing with these two, and then alternatively these two or these two, just depending on kind of what you want to swing with. But such a pretty palette. Honestly, this is so gorgeous. This is a really, really beautiful, beautiful multi-chrome. It's like a deep based, it's like the truest multi-chrome when I think of multi-chrome, I feel like. It's so stunning. It's so stunning. The Fighter palette was a really great neutral, everyday kind of, I could wear it to work kind of palette. It worked really well with last month's BYOP that I'll have linked in the cards, but this went really well with a lot of the shades that I paired in there. And again, even independently, the shades looked really fantastic on the lids. So yeah, this is the Fighter palette. The shimmers in this palette, the metallics I should say, are so incredibly foiled and wet looking. They are just incredible. This shade especially, it's just so beautiful. And then the last palette that we had in this rotation of palettes was my Unearthly Cosmetics Leather and Lace palette. This palette is massive, 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 but there was only 5 shades that I had to use. It was the middle row of oranges and then the shimmery purple. And I'm so happy to say that I ended up using those shades that I was missing use out of. I actually ended up using the entirety of these 2 bottom rows. I had already reached for this top row back in March. So I've officially no pan left behind this palette now, which again, it makes me a very happy camper that I am getting such great use out of my items in my collection. In October, I ended up no pan left behinding 4 different palettes, and the 4 were palettes that I was focusing on for the month of October. My Leather and Lace palette, my Fighter palette, my Warlock palette here, and then the Maple Syrup Pancakes palette. So I no pan left behind these 4 palettes, but I didn't reach my goal on these 2 guys. So all in all, not too terrible. I am excited to bring some new palettes into the focus, into the forefront of my mind this month. And I'm really excited about it because I've said it in so many different videos already, but November is my birth month. My birthday is actually in a couple days when you guys are seeing this. I have no pan left behind 34 out of the 48 palettes or singles ranges in my collection, which makes me so excited that 70% of my palettes or groupings of eyeshadows that have been used in some capacity palette wise. Now, in terms of percent of my collection, I have used 77% of my collection in its entirety, at least what's in my collection as of now or as of October. I don't know what's coming into my life in the next couple days, next couple weeks, and what I'm going to end up splurging for myself, because usually I will purchase myself something for my birthday, and I feel like this year is going to be no different. I have some Ulta points that I need to redeem, but let's just go over the stack of eyeshadows that I want to focus on over the next few weeks over the course of November. So the first one's kind of my wild card palette, but I have a reason why I'm pulling this in. This is my Ice Cream Dream palette by Glamlight, and one, it's kind of on brand right now because it is my birthday month, and what screams birthday more? If it was cake palette, yes, but it's as close to birthday anything I'm gonna get in my collection right now. And reason why I want to pull this in is not because this color story screams autumn and fall and Thanksgiving to me, but this is a palette that I have a lot of shades that still need to be reached for. I will have the graphic go up there, but there is quite a few shades. I think I had 13, so there's 8, 9, 13, yeah, 13 different shades. It's going to be these 4 up here, which is nice that most of them are neutral. So these 4, these 3, these 4, this one, which I have a pan in that one at least, so that'll be easy, one use, and then this yellow. So these 4, these 3, these 4, this one, and then this one. When I look at the graphic and I think about this palette, all I can think of is, oh my gosh, I have so many bright shades left to use in this palette, when in reality it's not that many bright shades, and I am just like working myself up for no reason. Something that I'm much more excited to use because it's in a color story that I think is a lot more appropriate for this time of year, and it's a newer one in my collection, but I've very barely reached for it. This is the 𝙍𝙬𝙘𝙚 Cosmetics. 𝙍𝙬𝙘 is a newer brand to me, but this is the Flower Moon palette. I stumbled across them on Etsy, and then all of a sudden, I swear they were popping up everywhere. But this is what the Flower Moon palette looks like. In this middle row, it screams all the shades that I could ever want to wear. Give me all of the greens with ships in them. That's really totally all that I would wear, and I would be totally fine with it. But there are some of these really other beautiful shades in this palette. Freesia up here is a shade that is similar to something that I've harped on that I finished recently, so I can get similar use out of this shade as I was using that previous shade. There's just a lot of really beautiful shades in this palette, and I really have only reached for, what is that, 6-7 shades in this palette out of 21, so abysmal, and I'm excited to rectify that and use a lot more of these shades over the course of the next month. Then I have totally decided to give myself permission to reach for my expensive things because I'm worth it. So the first one is going to be my Natasha Denona Retro palette. This I purchased a couple months ago when I knew I was leaving Ulta. I needed that discount, baby. I needed it. So this is what the retro palette looks like. It's perfect for this time of year. Tell me this does not scream stuffing your face with stuffing and then sitting on the couch and taking a nap for 3 hours. And this kind of ties in with the other palette that I wanted to focus on this month. And this is the Retro Glam palette. And clearly very similar kind of color vibe. So we have those rosy tones with the greens. So I thought those palettes would pair incredibly well together. Plus I have a lot of indie topper shades that are in my BYOP, as well as the 𝙍𝙬𝙘𝙚 cosmetic shades have some toppers in them that'll lean towards this palette, as well as the retro palette. But this palette is so pretty, and I'm so excited to get some more love and reach for this more. I have a couple mint shades in my year-long project pan that I'm trying to get use out of that I've been struggling using. So having something that has a little bit more mint color story to it, and especially since I am going to the office, I sometimes just don't let myself wear mint on my eyes, even though it's my favorite freaking shade of eyeshadow, but I just am like, don't be too crazy. But you know what? Screw it. It's my birthday month and I can do it if I want to. So I'm going to roll this guy in, and then I'm not going to leave them on my desk, but I am going to just kind of set them on the shelf, kind of where like Sailor Moon is. There's some space on that shelf, and I am going to leave these two palettes just kind of sat on there because I am trying to touch every single shade in my palette collection, in my collection in total, but I don't think we're going to get there with the singles this year, but the palettes, I definitely think I can do it. So I want to just kind of leave these two palettes just tucked on the shelf, not really out and about, but when I'm kind of wanting just like, I want to play with a different palette, girl, you better reach for these. You better reach for these and get some use out of them. You have 4 shades left in this palette and 3 shades left in this palette. You can get the use out of them. Also, how cute would the yellow from this palette be with the brighter yellow from this palette? And then maybe like the gold, we could do just a super bright yellow eye look for fall. Perfect time of year for it. But that is it for my no pan left behind. Let me know how you're doing, if you are doing a no pan left behind, or if you're trying to just touch as much of your stuff as you can. Let me know how you're doing down below. I would love to know how your projects are doing. But that is it for this video. I hope you guys are staying healthy, sane, and safe, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye.